Welcome back, guys, to my weekly series of the Mount Rushmore of a certain WWE category. So how this works is I list a bunch of people that could possibly be on the WWE Mount Rushmore of a certain category, and then ultimately I just list the three that is undoubtedly on the Mount Rushmore, and then you tell me who your fourth would be, or ultimately just who your four are. So for today, we've got the Anoa'i family, so one of the wrestling great families, and I had to limit myself because there's so many of them. So I limited myself to a certain amount. I'm not going to say the amount, but you can figure it out by watching the video. So let's get straight into it with Tamina. Obviously, Tamina Snuka, family of Jimmy Superfly Snuka, who we may or may not talk about later. Now, how are they related? They are related to the Anoa'i family through marriage, and this still ultimately counts. So I counted Tamina because of her athleticism and her dominance as a female wrestler. Next, we've got, as of time of recording, the current WWE Women's Champion, which of course is Nia Jax. She's also related to the Anoa'i family, and she is the unstoppable force. And her return has put her on this list. If it wasn't for her return, she wouldn't have been on here because her first run was not that good, but she's actually proving herself to be quite a hand in WWE. Next, let's go for the Tonga Kid. So that's a name that doesn't quite get thrown out often enough, but the Tonga Kid, he was quite an innovator of some kind of high-flying aerial style, and I do think we need to put some respect on the Tonga Kid's name. Next, we're going to go for someone who we may speak about much later in this video. His dad, Soul Man Rocky Johnson. Don't forget about his record as a tag team champion, and of course just trailblazing style and his quick feet, all of that. Next, we have to talk about the late great Peter Maivia, High Chief. If it wasn't for him, would this list even exist in the form it does? I'm not 100% sure it does, but because of him, it does. Next, we're going to break this up into two. We've got Alpha, part of obviously the Wild Samoans, and in no particular order, next we've got Sika. So both of them recently passed away, and of course one of them being the dad of Roman Reigns, so obviously he's got that lineage going for him as well. Next, we've got Rikishi. Attitude Era, absolute great. He was so incredibly over in the Attitude Era. If it wasn't for that ill-fated heel turn, he would have possibly gone on to be a face WWE champion, or at least I thought he was strong on his way. Next, we've got to talk about, as of time of recording, currently in possession of the Ula Fala, we have to talk about Solo Sikoa. Breaking onto the main roster as Roman Reigns' henchman, and then breaking into his own little faction, and now feuding with the OG Bloodline versus the new Bloodline. It's quite decent storytelling. Now, speaking about Solo, we have to speak about his, let's call him his lackeys. Let's speak about Tangaloa. Of course, hasn't been on WWE programming for too long, but he's made quite the impression, and his former Guerrillas of Destiny tag team partner, Tamatonga. Tamatonga, same exact situation with Tangaloa, hasn't been on the main roster for too long, but has made quite an impression in the new Bloodline stable. Next, let's talk about Rikishi's kids. Let's talk about Jimmy Uso. So out of the two, Jay has been more successful. That's why, and this is in no particular order, but I just thought I'd have to list Jay after Jimmy. So Jimmy has not been as successful as Jay as a solo run, but he's still been successful enough. And of course, we have to talk about their tag exploits, world record setting tag team champions. Next, we have got to talk about Jay Uso. Of course, he's currently in the IC Championship picture, and he's doing fantastic things in his solo career. Of course, the Heat thing, he got that incredibly over, and of course, the tag team thing, he's got going for himself as well. Next, this guy was genuinely terrifying. It is Umaga. His Samoan spike was genuinely a terrifying finisher at one point in time, and he had that unstoppable heel champ run until, of course, he had to run into John Cena and Bobby Lashley, but it's just one of those things. Then we have to speak about Roman Reigns' brother. We have to speak about Rosie, or 3-minute warnings guy, or a superhero in training, which I'm not going to spell out what that says, but yes, he was important in the late Ruthless Aggression era, or mid-Ruthless Aggression era, with the whole 3-minute warning and all of that. He was quite an important part on TV. Next, this guy is currently one of the MVPs of WWE TV, and that is Jacob Fatu. If Jacob Fatu is not a future WrestleMania main event world champion, then I don't want to know what's going on in the booking meetings, because he's got future world champ written all over him, possibly the MVP of the entire Bloodline story. Then we have to speak about, I don't necessarily like to speak about him, but we have to speak because of personal issues, but I have to speak about Jimmy Superfly Snuka, just the innovation in the high flying style. That's all I'm going to say, but he deserves a mention on this list. And now for the three that is undoubtedly on this list. And I wanted to put them in a specific order, but then I thought that's just doing disservice to one of them. We have to speak about Yokozuna. Arguably, except for Andre, maybe, it's debatable, the best big guy to ever do this. The stories people tell about how athletic he was for a guy that was at 1,600 pounds. He moved like a guy 250, 300 pounds, and he was incredibly terrifying in the new generation era. That foreign heel menace that WWE loves to do, he did it better than most. Next, we have to talk about Roman Reigns, record-setting world champion and the original tribal chief, and just one of the company's MVPs throughout the last number of years. And then lastly, the most electrifying man in sports and entertainment, and the final boss, and the current CEO of WWE parent company, we have to mention The Rock. Obviously, if you didn't know he was going to sit right at the top, then I have no idea if you've ever watched a wrestling video before. So we're still waiting that head of the table clash between Roman and The Rock. Will it happen at Mania 41? It's very possible. I don't want to bet on it, but I think it's very, very possible. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, peace.